Hi everyone, I hope you had a good week. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Forbes Flash. There's a lot to talk about. Let's take a walk down Hamburger Lane while I tell you the story of Lindsay Snyder, the billionaire president of In-N-Out. No, but literally, that's the name of the street where the burger chain has a secret corporate test kitchen. The story of how Snyder came to run the iconic West Coast chain is a roller coaster, to say the least. But it's turned out pretty well for her, as she becomes the youngest woman on our Forbes 400 list this year with a $3 billion fortune. The granddaughter of In-N-Out founders Harry and Esther Snyder, Lindsay took over the reins in 2010, focusing on a slow but steady expansion across the West Coast. Two things she's uncompromising on. First, maintaining the brand identity, which means no trendy products like bacon-wrapped anything. The menu has fewer than 15 items on it. And two, she'll never sell. She's gotten pretty crazy offers for either selling or taking In-N-Out public, but it's out of the picture. Quote, "It's not about the money for us. Unless God sends a lightning bolt down and changes my heart miraculously, I would not ever sell." For the second year in a row, Alphabet is the world's best employer. The ranking, a part of our Global 2000 list, compares companies with high approval in areas like working conditions and diversity. So, what makes Google's parent company the best? They were, after all, the only company on the list to receive a perfect score. Google announced this year that women hold 25.5% of leadership positions in the company, and their Latinx and Black hires have increased. It's big progress for a very big company. Alphabet has over 80,000 employees and a market value of $776.3 billion. US-based companies dominated the top of the global list, taking up 6 of the top 10 spots. After Alphabet, the other top 10 companies include Apple, Disney, and Amazon. You've probably heard of them all. German-based companies, though, were the second most represented in the top 10, including auto companies Daimler AG and BMW. So if you're job searching, you'll probably want to check out the full list. Here's a few stories you might have missed this past week. Big news this week for Taylor Swift fans. And no, I'm not talking about her record number of AMA wins, though that's separately impressive. Instead, I'm referring to the star's plea for her fans to vote, an uncharacteristic call to action for a celebrity who's traditionally avoided voicing her political opinions. Via Instagram, Swift shared that she was compelled to act, quote, "due to several events in my life and the world in the past 2 years," in an apparent reference to the election of President Donald Trump. And her fans were listening. According to Vote.org, registrations have increased nationwide after the pop star's post by about 240,000. About half of those were people aged 18 to 29, so expect to see lots of "look what you made me do" jokes on voting day. Switching gears to the corporate world, where activist investor Bill Ackman announced this week that he's turned his focus to the biggest coffee chain in the world. Yep, we're talking Starbucks, where Ackman's hedge fund has taken a roughly $900 million stake. The reasoning behind the 15 million share position? Potential growth in China, where business could eventually outgrow US earnings. Raise a latte to that. Speaking of things happening that impact the whole world, a new special report came out about global warming, and the news isn't good. Basically, the coming deadlines to revert a rising Earth temperature are sooner than we think. Think barely 20 years away. Yikes. But one point that people aren't really mentioning among all the somewhat panicked chatter: we're already seeing the impacts of the 1 degree Celsius of warming, like historic flooding, wildfires, drought, and sea level rise. So, should the focus be on continuing to investigate what will happen if the temperature hits 1.5 degrees warming, or focus on how to respond what's already happening now? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tweet them back at me using hashtag Forbes Flash. This week we launched our inaugural Top European Women in Tech. It's full of 50 awe-inspiring technologists who you need to learn more about. And it's just the beginning. Next month we'll have the top 50 American women in tech, and later in the year, the global version of the list. But until then, let's talk about the European moguls, founders, innovators, engineers, and warriors who are changing the world through tech. In case you're wondering how one makes it on this list, it's leadership, financial impact, and general influence. So a few names you should know. Corinne Vigreau, co-founder of Dutch sat-nav business TomTom, has grown the company into a $2.4 billion business. And this year, she founded a free peer-to-peer coding school for 18 to 30-year-olds in Amsterdam. As an entrepreneur, when I see something that can be done differently, I like to just roll up my sleeves and do it, she says. Another inspiring story, that of Norwegian entrepreneur Christine Spuyten, who at 28 years old closed a $6 million funding round to develop an underwater drone business. The company's Pioneer drone is now being used by NGOs for ocean mapping and cleanups in Norway, the US, and Australia. Cool, right? You can find out more about the stories of all 50 women by following Forbes Europe on Twitter. Google had a tough week as it was revealed that a software bug in their Google+ social network exposed user information. Even worse, the tech giant chose not to reveal the details, fearing damage to its reputation. Well, no comment on that reasoning. Basically, what we know is that between 2015 and March of this year, outside developers would have been able to potentially access personal Google Plus profile data. Google can't confirm which users were impacted by the bug, but they're guessing it's a number in the 500,000s. Well, there's good news for those of you avid Google Plus users. There's no evidence that any profile data was misused. But even so, they're shutting down the social network for users. Business customers will be allowed to carry on, while the company tightens up security and privacy measures across the G Suite. Good idea. Thanks for tuning in today. We're here every Friday morning without fail, so be sure to check back in next week and the week after that.